Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into something warmer than your aunt's Tupperware full of expired potato salad, but somehow far more dangerous. The world of 1970s living rooms, the birthplace of Amway. Yes, Amway, the company that somehow convinced millions of perfectly normal people that the key to financial freedom was selling detergent to their friends. And not just detergent, but special detergent. The kind that could apparently clean your soul, repair your marriage, pay off your mortgage, and maybe even tone your glutes if you believed hard enough. Before we wander into this beige-carpeted wonderland of optimism and multi-level chaos, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy being here at 2 a.m, with the rest of us night owls learning more about pyramid-shaped life choices than anyone ever asked for. And thank you for suggesting this topic. It was genuinely a joy to create. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what decade your living room currently looks like. If you've got wood paneling, this episode is basically autobiographical for you. Now dim those lights, put a fan on for that sweet white noise, and get cozy. Maybe even tuck your feet in so no entrepreneurial spirit from 1978 can tap your ankle and whisper, "Hey, have you ever thought about being your own boss?" Let's get curious for a second. Have you ever wondered, why did every Amway distributor in the 70s dress like a substitute math teacher with huge dreams? Why were living rooms across America suddenly hosting meetings where strangers aggressively complimented your potential? How many cousins did you lose to the phrase ground floor opportunity? Did everyone secretly fear being ambushed by a neighbour holding a flip chart? And was the detergent really that good? Or were people just too scared to admit it smelled like a lemon that had emotional baggage? But don't panic, because congratulations, you've just woken up in 1973, your carpet is orange, your couch is floral, and your mailbox is full of brochures promising financial freedom if you'll only recruit 5 friends who'll each recruit 5 more friends who'll get the idea. Welcome to Amway Nation. Let's begin. It always starts innocently. You're at a backyard cookout sipping a warm beer when your neighbour approaches with a smile too wide to be normal for a Tuesday. Before you can escape, they utter the fateful words, "Have you ever thought about being your own boss?" You don't know it yet, but this is the first ripple in a wave that will eventually crash directly into your living room carpet. At first you assume this is just small talk, like when someone asks if you've ever considered opening a restaurant even though you've burned instant ramen. But then the smile doesn't fade. If anything, it widens, like a snake unhinging its jaw to swallow an egg. Your neighbour leans in, lowering their voice as if revealing nuclear launch codes. "There's this opportunity," they whisper, and suddenly the backyard feels less like a cookout and more like the opening scene of a documentary you once saw about financial entrapment through charismatic acquaintances. You glance around for help, but everyone else is conveniently distracted. Someone is arguing with the grill about its refusal to heat evenly. A toddler is crying because they dropped a hot dog. A dog is crying because the toddler dropped a hot dog. Meanwhile, you're trapped in a motivational tractor beam powered by a man wearing loafers without socks. Your neighbour starts outlining the basic concept, which seems to involve drawing invisible shapes in the air. Circles, arrows, lines that connect for reasons you can't decipher. It looks like the world's least helpful treasure map, one where X marks bankruptcy, but you nod politely, because you were raised to be courteous and also because you're still holding a plate of potato salad that you don't want to drop during a social confrontation. Then comes the first mention of the word Amway. It's said softly, reverently, like someone invoking an ancient spell. You're not sure what it means, but the way they're staring at you, you suspect it requires a blood oath, or at least a modest down payment. As they speak, you realize the air around them seems to shimmer. Maybe it's the sun, maybe it's destiny, maybe it's the fumes from an overworked citronella candle. Hard to say. You try to shift the conversation to something safer, sports, weather, literally anything else. But your neighbour counters every attempt with the conversational equivalent of a motivational judo throw. "What if I told you that you could retire early?" they say, eyebrows raised. You don't have the heart to tell them you'd settle for just catching up on laundry. Slowly, they walk you toward the patio table as if guiding a nervous deer to a salt lick. They pull out a brochure. Where did the brochure come from? You didn't see them holding anything earlier. Do they keep these tucked into their socks like business card ninjas? The cover features a couple standing on a beach, smiling into the horizon as though financial independence cured their need for sunglasses. You realise, with a quiet dread, that this is no longer a conversation. This is a presentation, and you are the only person in the audience. Your neighbour begins explaining the life-changing potential of selling detergent. Not just any detergent, but detergent so pure, so powerful, so spiritually uplifting that the brochure practically glows when the sun hits it. You nod slowly, not because you understand, but because you're trying to figure out how to set down your plate without committing to something legally binding. By the time they finish, your warm beer is now hot, your potato salad is sweating, and you're 80% sure you've just been recruited into something that requires laminated charts. As you finally escape, muttering something about checking on the buns, you look back and notice your neighbour already eyeing their next target. They move with purpose, like a shark sensing financial insecurity in the water, and that's the moment it hits you. This wasn't just a conversation. It was your origin story. The first domino. The day your neighbour smiled too wide and your living room never recovered. You walk into what you think is a casual gathering and immediately realise everyone is too enthusiastic. There's a whiteboard, there are product samples, there's a man named Randy explaining how residual income works. You sit politely, clutching your soda, unaware that your life trajectory is about to zigzag like a disco-era stock chart. For new parents or theme park employees who've had too much caffeine. You expected a few snacks, maybe a card game. Instead, you've walked into a motivational ambush staged in someone's den. Randy, who has somehow achieved the exact haircut of a man who owns 3 different briefcases, greets you with a handshake so firm it feels like he's trying to recruit your skeleton. His smile never falters. It's unsettling, like he practices in the mirror while listening to self-help tapes. He gestures toward a folding chair with the exaggerated enthusiasm of a man unveiling a luxury car. You sit, soda still in hand, and immediately notice everyone else holding identical branded cups. It feels like you missed a memo. An assortment of products is arranged on a nearby table. Laundry detergent, vitamins, dish soap. Something that might be shampoo or might be a miracle cure for emotional instability. You can't tell. The packaging looks like it was designed by someone who thinks beige is a personality. Randy clears his throat. The room falls silent in an unnervingly synchronized manner, like they've rehearsed. He begins drawing circles on the whiteboard with the confidence of a man who truly believes the future is shaped like a snowman. The circles connect. Then those circles connect. Eventually the board begins to resemble a family tree belonging to someone with far too many cousins. He calls this the plan. You sip your soda, which suddenly tastes suspiciously motivational. As he talks, you notice subtle signals around the room. People nod at key moments. They murmur, when he mentions financial freedom. They look at you with compassionate intensity, like they've all just agreed that you personally deserve a better life, preferably one involving residual income and bulk purchases of dish detergent. At one point, Randy asks the group a question that sounds more like a challenge to your soul. If you could retire in 5 years, would you? Everyone nods vigorously. You nod too, mostly because you feel socially obligated and also because it does sound nice. Randy beams at you like you've passed the first test. He moves on to testimonials. A woman named Carol explains how this business changed everything, and you can't help noticing her voice has the same soothing cadence as late-night infomercials. She talks about quitting her job, about vacations, about self-belief. Then she mentions the detergent again, more lovingly than she mentioned her children. You want to ask questions, but every time you consider raising your hand, the room leans forward, ready to absorb any hesitation before it spreads. The soda grows warmer in your palm. Your chair feels smaller. The mood feels gently pressurized, like you're inside a motivational submarine. Then comes the pivot. Randy stops drawing, caps his marker, and looks at you the way a cat looks at a bird bath. Hopeful, predatory, patient. "We see potential in you," he says. You blink. You've been here 20 minutes, and all you've done is drink soda and accidentally nod at the wrong time. But they already see potential. Tremendous potential. Life-changing potential. Potential shaped vaguely like you buying a starter kit. The room bursts into supportive smiles. Someone pats your shoulder. Someone else hands you a pamphlet decorated with glossy photos of happy couples on beaches. People who apparently achieved paradise by selling surface cleaner. Your heart thuds softly, not from fear but from confusion. You're still not entirely sure what the business is. There were circles, yes, and detergent, and Carol's alarming devotion to both. But nothing concrete. It feels like trying to solve a puzzle without corner pieces. Randy finishes with a flourish. This could be the first day of your new life. And then he asks, gently, sweetly, with all the confidence of a man who has never questioned a single decision, "Are you ready to join the team?" Everyone stares. The air thickens. You swallow the last of your soda like it's liquid courage. You're not sure what happens next, but you do know one thing. They never mentioned what the opportunity actually is, only that you should say yes. Every Amway group had that one person, the self-appointed motivational guru who could draw circles on a flip chart faster than a Vegas man counting cards. You stare as they sketch your financial destiny in red marker, wondering why the circles keep multiplying like bacteria in a lab experiment. This person, let's call them the prophet, because that's how they behave, moves with an ease that suggests the flip chart is not a tool but an extension of their soul. They glide around the room like a televangelist of markers, narrating your future wealth, while the red ink squeaks across the paper at a speed that makes your eye twitch. Each circle is drawn with dramatic flair, as if the very act of sketching it unlocks another chamber of financial wisdom. You sit there, hands folded, trying to understand anything they're saying. You squint at the diagram. It now resembles a crop circle, or perhaps the early draft of a conspiracy board. There are arrows, there are more circles, there are lines that intersect in ways that feel illegal in 3 states. Your financial future apparently hinges on geometry you barely passed in high school. The prophet senses your confusion like a shark senses a drop of blood in the water. They pause, turn toward you, marker poised theatrically, and ask, "Does this make sense so far?" The whole room leans in, eager for your enlightenment. You nod, even though you're pretty sure this is the same nod people give when pretending to understand cryptocurrency. The prophet beams, pleased with your compliance, and resumes their artistic assault on the flip chart. The marker squeals as another elaborate hoop of opportunity appears. "This is you," they say, circling a dot with flourish. Then circling more dots. "These are the people you help." Their tone suggests you're not merely building a business, but orchestrating the emotional and financial salvation of the entire Western Hemisphere. Your job apparently is to fill these circles with human beings. Friends, family, co-workers, mild acquaintances, former classmates, your dentist, the barista who spelled your name wrong once, anyone with a pulse. Each new person gets their own circle, which sprouts new circles, which sprout even more circles. It's financial horticulture. The prophet then asks the room, "Now who here wants true freedom?" A chorus of "yes" erupts. startling you into fumbling your soda. They speak in rhythms, in cadences, as if reciting scripture, residual income, reproducible structure, duplication. You could swear you see someone in the corner wiping away a tear, moved by the power of organizational charts. Then comes the personal testimony, because no profit is complete without one. They lean forward, lowering their voice to a solemn whisper. I used to work all the time, they say. Clock in, clock out, dead inside. The room murmurs sympathetically, as though everyone collectively remembers their own past lives as soulless office drones. But then I saw the plan. They gesture dramatically to the flip chart, as if unveiling the Ark of the Covenant. You look at the diagram. You still see bacteria. The prophet continues. This business set me free. They reveal they now work 2 hours a week, which feels like a medical impossibility, supported primarily by a network of people they allegedly inspired. You wonder where these mythical 2-hour work weeks are distributed because you would absolutely like to register for one. Then seamlessly, the sermon turns to you. You, they say, pointing with a red marker, you have leadership potential. The room nods in agreement, despite the fact that 5 minutes ago you struggled to locate the bathroom. The pressure swells as the prophet draws one final larger circle around all the others, your future empire. They step back, eyes shining, as if expecting angels to descend from the ceiling tiles. You stare at the chart. It still looks like a pizza with too many toppings. Your applause is polite, yet inside, a part of you wonders whether you're witnessing financial genius or the world's most aggressive arts and crafts demonstration. Either way, everyone treats the flip chart prophet like a visionary, and you, poor, confused you, are just hoping this whole diagram doesn't end with you needing to buy more markers. Some people find religion. In Amway, you find laundry soap that promises to change your life. Suddenly you're nodding as someone explains how this powdered miracle is the cornerstone of personal transformation. You haven't even tried it, but you're already pretending your whites have never been whiter. The person preaching to you, let's call them the detergent disciple, speaks with the fervour of someone who has stared directly into the luminescent heart of a washing machine and seen destiny. Their eyes shine as they tell you how this detergent isn't just effective, it's transcendent. You half expect them to start laying hands on laundry baskets. They clutch a box of the stuff like it's a sacred relic. The packaging is aggressively plain, which somehow makes the reverence even stranger. It looks like a bag of flour that went to business school, but the disciple holds it up as if unveiling a holy artifact recovered from the ruins of a very entrepreneurial civilization. Do you realize, they whisper, that this product could fund your retirement? It's a phrase so bizarrely optimistic you momentarily forget how retirement works. Then comes the demonstration. Of course there is a demonstration. They pull out 2 jars of murky water. Where did they get these? Why do they already have stains suspended inside them? Is this a travelling science fair? They sprinkle a suspiciously tiny amount of the detergent into one jar, swirl it like a sommelier evaluating a Chardonnay, and beam as the water turns vaguely less brown. Everyone around you gasps, actual, audible gasps. You glance at the jar again, squinting, wondering if you're missing something. It still looks like water you'd drain from a gutter, but apparently this is proof of divine chemical intervention. Next, they explain the philosophy of the detergent. Philosophy. As if Socrates himself once stood before his students and said, "The unexamined laundry is not worth washing." They describe molecules, cleaning power, the ethics of soil removal. You've never heard the word enzymes delivered with this level of emotional gravity. Modern life never prepared you for this level of laundry-based evangelism. You came here expecting maybe a snack plate and casual conversation. Instead, You're sitting through a sermon about fabric brightness that feels like a recruitment for a monastery where everyone takes a vow of cleanliness. As the lesson continues, you begin to understand that this soap is more than a product, it's identity. The disciple insists that selling it is not selling, it's sharing a blessing. They tell you stories of families transformed, marriages saved, financial futures secured all through detergent. You wonder if they're confusing this product with therapy. Someone passes around sample packets. You hold one gently, unsure whether to sniff it or pray over it. It smells like lemons that grew up in a strict household. One enthusiastic woman claims she once removed a stain so stubborn it had emotional attachment. A man insists his electricity bill dropped because the detergent aligned his household energy. You're not sure if that's pseudoscience or poetry. Then comes the inevitable comparison. The disciple dramatically places a rival brand on the table. The room recoils as if witnessing a crime scene. This, they declare, tapping the box with justified disgust, is what the masses buy. The word masses is said with the same disdain a medieval noble might use for the word peasant. You realise the detergent isn't just a product, they've made it a moral high ground, a lifestyle, a belief system wrapped in powder and promises. Finally, they circle back to you who still hasn't quite processed the science experiment. Imagine, they say softly, being part of something bigger than yourself through laundry. You blink, you sip your drink, you nod very slowly, trying to look supportive while your brain attempts to map a universe in which your future depends on convincing others to worship at the altar of soap granules. By the end of the meeting, you're not sure whether you're cleaner, wiser, or just deeply confused. But one thing is certain, you'll never look at a load of whites the same way again. Your spouse walks in on you reading the Amway success manual by lamplight. They pause, they blink, they ask slowly, "Is this a phase?" You smile too confidently. They sigh the sigh of someone who realizes the living room furniture might soon be rearranged to maximize presentation flow. There is something undeniably suspicious about being caught reading a spiral-bound manual with titles like Unlocking Your Inner Entrepreneur and the Path to Prosperity Through Proper Product Placement. It doesn't help that the lamp casts dramatic shadows across your face, making you look less like a supportive partner and more like someone about to pitch a business opportunity at 11 p.m. Your spouse steps closer, eyes narrowing at the collection of notes you've already scribbled into the margins. Words like mindset, duplication, and believe harder loop around the page in increasingly excited handwriting. You gently close the manual, hoping the movement looks casual and not like the reflexive snap of a guilty teenager hiding contraband. What exactly, they ask, is happening here? You take a breath, ready to explain how this is not merely a hobby, it's the beginning of a transformative journey involving leveraged networks and detergent-fueled dreams. But the moment you open your mouth, your spouse's expression shifts into the face people make when listening to a small child describe how gravity works. They sit on the edge of the bed, bracing for impact. "Just tell me," they say, "how deep are we in?" Their voice wavers slightly, as if they already suspect the answer involves bulk orders. You reassure them too quickly that it's not a big deal. You're just learning, you say, just exploring. Unfortunately, this is the same tone you once used when claiming you were just looking at exercise bikes online, and then a delivery truck arrived 2 days later. Your spouse senses danger the way a seasoned ship captain senses a distant storm. Their eyes drift to the stack of brochures beside the manual. That stack wasn't there earlier. That stack wasn't supposed to be visible, yet here it is, shimmering with glossy pictures of smiling couples on beaches. They pick one up. "Who are these people?" they ask, pointing at a couple who look like they haven't worried about a bill since 1964. You explain, awkwardly, that these are diamond-level leaders, which sounds both impressive and vaguely cult-like. Your spouse stares at the brochure as though expecting it to reveal hidden runes. And what exactly, they ask carefully, is a diamond-level leader? You begin to describe ranks, circles, upline, downline, words that come out of your mouth with growing enthusiasm, like you're reading from an ancient prophecy written entirely in corporate buzzwords. Your spouse listens, but at some point, their soul appears to leave their body for a brief walk around the neighbourhood. Then comes the moment every Amway spouse knows. So do we need to buy anything? You assure them that no, absolutely not. Well, maybe a few small things, but nothing major. Just essentials like detergent, vitamins, hair care, cookware, energy drinks, water filters, and also the Success Bundle, which includes 6 cassette tapes, a workbook, and a laminated chart about mindset. It's practically nothing. Your spouse closes their eyes. You can tell they're weighing the pros and cons of pretending to be asleep every night until this phase ends. But then something remarkable happens. After a long, slow breath, they open their eyes and say, "Okay, I just need to know one thing. Are you planning to invite strangers into our home?" You freeze, because the truth is, yes. Yes, you are. Not immediately, of course. First, you need to rearrange the furniture for optimal presentation flow, which will absolutely ruin the feng shui and definitely block the hallway. Then you'll need to practice your pitch, which means talking to yourself in the mirror until the dog becomes concerned. After that, the guests will come, quiet at first, curious, confused, like you were once. Your spouse rubs their temples, they whisper, "I'm married into this." You offer them a reassuring pat on the shoulder. It's just temporary, you say, but deep down you both know. When the manuals come out, when the brochures appear, when the detergent becomes a metaphor for life itself, this is no longer a phase. This is a season. You've barely signed up, and already you're cold calling your high school classmates. You tell yourself this is networking. Really, it's the 1970s version of accidentally joining a spam email list, except you're the spam. The moment you dial the first number, you feel an odd mixture of dread and excitement, like preparing for a job interview you never applied for. The rotary phone clicks dramatically with each turn, each mechanical whir adding tension. It's a slow, calculated build-up to the moment your old lab partner answers with a groggy hello, as though they already suspect something is off. You take a breath, channeling every motivational tape you've heard in the past 48 hours. "Hey, long time no talk," you say, with the forced cheerfulness of someone trapped in an elevator with their supervisor. On the other end, there is a suspicious pause, the kind that suggests they're trying to remember if you owe them money. You launch into your pitch with all the grace of a baby deer learning to walk. Words tumble out. Opportunity, business, freedom, detergent. The longer you talk, the more you hear yourself becoming a walking brochure. You're saying phrases no normal human has ever said in casual conversation, like ground floor potential and leveraging time through duplication. You're not even sure what that last one means. Your classmate listens politely, but you can tell they're flipping through emotional cue cards, trying to decide whether to hang up, fake interference, or confess they're suddenly late for an appointment. Down, you know it's definitely selling. If down, you know it's definitely selling. If you shared any harder, you'd need to charge postage. After the call ends, uncertainly, awkwardly, with promises of maybe sometime next week, you sink back into your chair, heart pounding. You stare at the phone like it's a wild animal you've barely survived. But there's no time to recover. Your upline told you to make 10 calls tonight. 10. The phone is now your personal stairmaster of anxiety. You rotate the dial again, summoning courage you didn't know you lacked. This time, you call someone you haven't spoken to in years. The conversation starts normally enough with polite catch-up chatter. Then you feel it approaching, the pivot, the opportunity pivot. It looms over the call like a cartoon anvil. You swallow hard. So have you ever thought about being your own boss? There is silence. A long, rich, flavourful silence. On the other end, your former prom date inhales sharply, as if realising they've walked into a verbal trap. You hang up shortly after, mortified. You pace the kitchen, trying to convince yourself you're not a monster. You're just enthusiastic. Very enthusiastic. Aggressively enthusiastic. Like a golden retriever with a business degree. Still, you push forward. Because every tape says success happens one phone call at a time. They don't mention those calls will likely destroy social relationships, emotional stability, and your ability to make eye contact at future reunions. As the night drags on, your calls become increasingly bizarre. You leave a message for someone who moved to Canada in 1978. You pitch an opportunity to a wrong number. You accidentally try to recruit your dentist's receptionist. At one point, you're almost certain you start explaining residual income to someone's confused grandmother. Your spouse watches from the hallway, arms crossed, silently observing your descent into telephonic chaos. You give them a weak thumbs up before dialing again, because nothing says I'm fine like cold calling a childhood acquaintance about detergent at 9:45 p.m. Eventually, your voice grows hoarse and your enthusiasm frays around the edges. The phone cord tangles hopelessly around your elbow. The room feels warmer, smaller. You begin to question every decision that led you to this moment, but you keep dialing because that's what you were told success requires. And as you place your final call of the night, your courage held together by 2 motivational quotes and a dream, you realize something important. You're not just making phone calls anymore, you're becoming very good at being ignored. Your living room, once a peaceful zone of shag carpet and avocado-coloured decor, morphs into a stage. Brochures stack in neat pyramids. A whiteboard appears. The couch becomes seating for prospects. Your houseplants silently judge you. It begins subtly at first, just one brochure left on the coffee table for easy access, then a second brochure placed upright so the cover faces outward, like a family photo no one asked for. Soon, your entire living room looks like an aggressively tidy kiosk at a mall from which no escape is possible. Every surface becomes a promotional surface. Even the cat seems to have developed a talent for sitting directly on the most persuasive pamphlets. The whiteboard is the real turning point. It rolls into your home like a Trojan horse of optimism, its blank surface radiating the promise of circles, arrows, and life-changing diagrams that never quite make sense. You place it in the corner at first, hoping it will blend into the decor. It does not. It stands there, glaringly white and buzzing with ambition, reflecting the lamp in a way that makes it look like it's waiting to deliver bad news. Soon, you rearrange the furniture to maximize presentation flow, which essentially means creating a straight line from the front door to the whiteboard so no guest can avoid it. The couch is angled toward your new stage. The chairs flank it like a jury, and the coffee table becomes the sacred altar of product samples. You tell yourself the setup is temporary, but deep down, you can already sense the permanence in the way your spouse sighs when they enter the room. The brochures multiply. They appear in matching stacks, colour-coordinated as though they've unionised. Some lie open to pages featuring smiling couples on beaches. Others highlight charts showing upward-pointing arrows. Because nothing says success like a graph that looks like a ski slope in reverse. You even start fanning a few brochures out in a semicircle, like a deck of cards ready for your next illusion. Your houseplants, once symbols of calm domestic life, now sit on their shelves looking deeply disillusioned. Their leaves droop in disbelief. They've witnessed many things: dust, neglect, that time you tried to grow tomatoes indoors, but they were not emotionally prepared to become part of a multi-level marketing ambience. Lighting becomes important. You experiment with lamps, adjusting angles so the whiteboard gleams softly instead of blindingly. You learn the exact wattage that makes your detergent samples look more heroic. At one point, you even consider candles to create a warm, inviting atmosphere, before realizing open flames and motivational fervor are a dangerous mix. Then there's the seating. You arrange chairs to face you in a tidy semicircle, creating the vague impression of a support group, except the only thing being supported is your upline's commission. You add an extra folding chair just in case someone brings a friend, though you know deep in your heart that most people will arrive alone and with a polite but terrified expression. Your spouse walks through the room, stepping carefully over presentation materials, and mutters something about wanting the old living room back. You nod sympathetically while adjusting the angle of the whiteboard 1 inch to the left, because that inch represents the difference between mild interest and complete conversion. As the transformation continues, you start seeing your living room less as a collection of furniture and more as a battlefield for dreams. Every night before bed, you tidy the brochures, straighten the chairs and wipe stray fingerprints off the whiteboard, as if preparing for a surprise inspection by the Amway fairy. Your pet senses the shift too. Your dog sits obediently at your feet while you rehearse your pitch, tail thumping with the innocent loyalty of someone unaware they are being groomed to guard boxes of vitamins. Meanwhile, your cat hovers behind the whiteboard, eyes half closed as if anticipating the dramatic failure of your next diagram. Eventually, you step back and survey your creation. The shag carpet glows under the lamp, the brochures gleam, the whiteboard stands tall, ready to confuse yet another person. Everything looks perfect, almost too perfect, like you accidentally turned your living room into a set for a low-budget documentary on ambition. You take a deep, satisfied breath. Then you notice your spouse standing in the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea, shaking their head slowly. "We used to watch TV in here," they say. You smile proudly, gesturing toward the pristine display of detergent samples. And now, you reply, "We build empires." They take 1 long sip of tea and mutter, "Empires don't usually involve this many pamphlets." But the living room disagrees. It knows the truth. This is a stage now, and you're the star no one asked for. You managed to sign up a friend who still owes you $20 from college. They join with suspicious ease. You briefly wonder if this makes you a business leader or just someone who's accidentally dragging others into an economic labyrinth powered by optimism and laundry soap. They show up at your door holding a mismatched notebook and a look of mild confusion, the same look they wore during every group project you ever worked on together. You welcome them inside like a proud parent hosting a graduation party, except instead of diplomas, there are brochures, sample packs, and a whiteboard that has not known peace since you joined Amway. You sit them down, offer them a soda, and begin your pitch with the same enthusiastic tremble you once saved for karaoke night. You talk strategy, success, abundance, compounding momentum, words that now spill out of your mouth with unsettling fluency. Your friend nods politely, as if waiting for the moment you'll admit this is all an elaborate prank. But no, you flip open the brochure, you feel something shift, the room changes temperature. Suddenly you are the mentor, the guide, the shepherd of detergent-based destiny. You draw circles on your whiteboard with theatrical flair, circles that represent potential, circles that represent money, circles that represent something. You're honestly not sure anymore, but you say it with conviction. Your friend watches your demonstration with the same expression a dog makes when it hears a vacuum turn on, curious but deeply skeptical. Yet somehow, miraculously, they don't run. They lean forward. They ask questions, not good questions. Questions like, "So I just sell stuff?" and "Do I need to know math?" But questions nonetheless. You feel a spark of triumph. It grows. It blooms. You imagine yourself at the next rally on stage, telling the story of how you recruited your first team member, a story full of grit, perseverance, and exactly one friend who owed you $20. When they finally sign the form, It happens so fast you momentarily suspect they misunderstood what they were agreeing to. They grip your pen with a level of enthusiasm that suggests they think this might help erase their student loans. You don't have the heart to tell them tuition debt does not yield to detergent. You hand them their first sample kit. They cradle it delicately, as though it contains ancient relics instead of multi-purpose cleaner. Their eyes widen, absorbing the importance of the moment, or possibly the price tag. Hard to say. Then comes the mentoring. You teach them how to smile during phone calls, how to angle their brochures to catch the light, how to stand confidently but approachably, which quickly devolves into both of you striking poses in the living room like confused catalogue models. You practice the pitch together. They stumble through phrases like residual duplication leverage synergy, which you assure them is close enough. They rehearse their testimony, even though they have not yet touched a single product. They tell you they feel empowered. You choose not to question this. Confidence builds. You outline their future downline. You even draw a little stick figure in the centre circle labelled "you" with an arrow pointing upward, because nothing motivates like a cartoonish depiction of financial ascent. And yet a tiny voice in the back of your mind whispers, "What have you done?" Because as you watch your friend leave your house clutching their starter kit like an emotional support item, you can't shake the feeling that you've just thrown them into a maze where every turn leads to someone repeating the word opportunity. Still, you stand tall in your doorway, waving like a proud coach sending a rookie onto the field. You tell them you believe in them. You tell them success is inevitable. You tell them to call if they have questions, though you silently pray they do not. As the door closes, you lean against it and exhale. Is this leadership, recruitment, friendship, a mild felony? You're not sure. All you know is that you now have a team, a very small team, a team of exactly one person who still owes you $20. But in the world you've entered, that's the first step on a staircase made entirely of circles. Suddenly you're buying motivational cassette tapes from men with moustaches who shout phrases like, "Success is a choice," into microphones. Your car is now a rolling seminar. Your children beg you to play literally anything else. It starts with just one tape, something you buy at a rally because the speaker promised it would unlock abundance. The cover features a headshot of a man in a powder blue suit, smiling like he's never experienced doubt, failure, or a quiet moment in his life. You pop it into the cassette player out of mild curiosity, fully expecting to listen for 5 minutes before switching back to the radio. But 5 minutes turns into 7. 7 turns into 10. Before you know it, this man's booming voice fills your car, your kitchen, your brain. He speaks with a confidence normally reserved for astronauts or surgeons. Each sentence thunders with urgent wisdom. Take action. Be bold. Sell detergent like your life depends on it. You're hooked. Next comes tape number 2, then 3, then a box set titled something like The 12 Spiritual Laws of Success Through Salesmanship. Soon you've developed a ritual. Every morning you select a new tape, slide it into the player and buckle up as if preparing for launch. Your commute becomes a motivational boot camp. You recite affirmations at stoplights. You repeat mantras while merging onto the freeway. At one point, the speaker instructs you to visualize your dreams, so you accidentally zone out and miss your exit entirely. You shrug it off. Greatness requires sacrifice. Your spouse, however, begins to worry. They climb into the car one afternoon, hear a man yelling about reprogramming your subconscious, and mutter, "Can't we just listen to music like normal people?" You shake your head. Normal people don't reach diamond status. Normal people don't unlock generational wealth through concentrated enthusiasm and bulk vitamin purchases. Your children have less diplomatic reactions. The moment they hear the familiar enthusiastic roar of a motivational coach, they groan from the back seat, sliding down until only their eyes peek over the edge of the upholstery. "Please," they beg, "we will literally listen to anything else." Polka, elevator music, Dad's old jazz records. Please, but you hold firm. The tapes stay. At home, the collection expands across the living room shelf like an invasive species. Volumes multiply. Winning through mindset. Ignite your potential. The pyramid of prosperity, not a pyramid scheme. Some tapes come with workbooks filled with fill-in-the-blank exercises designed to force you into deep emotional reflection about your desire to succeed, or at least pretend to until your upline checks your progress. You start listening at odd hours, while cooking, while folding laundry, while brushing your teeth. The speakers become the soundtrack to your life, their voices embedded in your routine like subliminal jingles convincing you to sell more dish soap. You begin quoting them casually in conversation, to the horror of your friends. Remember, you say sagely, success is just the intersection of desire and duplication. You have no idea what it means, but you say it with conviction. Eventually, you discover the advanced tapes. These are not for beginners. These are for the elite, the chosen, the ones willing to sit through 3-hour monologues about personal accountability delivered at a pitch that could shatter glass. You listen anyway, scribbling notes furiously, determined to absorb every syllable. Your spouse passes by your open notebook one night and pauses at a page covered in frantic bullet points. Did you write "become unstoppable" 12 times, they ask. You smile proudly. Repetition builds belief. Slowly the tapes begin reshaping the way you think. You start waking up earlier, staying up later, repeating affirmations in the mirror while your confused reflection tries to keep up. The motivational voices blend together until you can't remember which mustachioed guru said what. But through it all, your car remains the official headquarters of this transformation. Each time you turn the key, the cassette deck whirs, ready to tell you once again that prosperity is only one mindset shift away. Your kids slouch deeper in their seats. Your spouse tightens their jaw. You raise the volume slightly because you're on a journey, and journeys require dramatic narration. One day, as you pull into the driveway and the tape clicks to an end, you sit in the quiet, staring ahead, feeling oddly inspired. There is silence. Then your youngest child leans forward, taps your shoulder and asks softly, "Can we please have one day without a man yelling about success?" You consider it. Then you reach for the next tape, because prosperity waits for no one, even if your passengers beg you to let it wait until after school. You sit at your dining table, sketching circles and arrows, imagining the day money will simply materialize because dozens of strangers beneath you in the organization are apparently selling toothpaste at all hours. It's more meditation than business plan. The table, once a place for cereal bowls and overdue bills, has become your personal war room. A single lamp casts a warm glow over the papers you've spread out, each sheet covered in diagrams that increasingly resemble alien star maps. You lean in, adding another circle, then another arrow, feeling a quiet thrill as your imagined empire expands outward, like a solar system made entirely of hope and mint-flavoured dental hygiene. This is how it happens, you tell yourself. This is how wealth blooms. Not through decades of savings or steady work, but through elegant shapes drawn on discount printer paper at 11 p.m. You pause, tapping your pen against your chin, letting the fantasy unfurl, a future where you wake up, stretch luxuriously, and discover that overnight your downline, bless their insomnia, sold enough toothpaste to fund your dreams. Passive income, the holy phrase, the financial equivalent of a self-cleaning kitchen. As you study the diagram, you begin talking to yourself in a low, motivational whisper, the kind you heard on every cassette tape this week. Leverage, duplication, momentum. The words float out softly like affirmations spoken by someone slowly being hypnotized by their own handwriting. Somewhere behind you, your spouse walks through the kitchen, takes one long look at your sketch and retreats silently. They've accepted that you've entered a new phase, one where you stare at arrows with the adoration usually reserved for newborn babies or limited edition vinyl. You refocus. At the top of the diagram is your name, underlined aggressively. Below it, a series of circles that represent your team. Below those, smaller circles representing their teams. It cascades into an elegant downward triangle you absolutely refuse to call a pyramid. This is structure. You insist. Organization. Geometry with purpose. You draw a few stick figures beside the circles. You give them friendly faces. They seem happy. They seem motivated. Some wear tiny business suits. One carries a briefcase full of imagination. They are the ideal downline. Always cheerful. Always selling toothpaste. Always expanding your imaginary fortune while you sleep like a financially blessed baby. You close your eyes and picture it more vividly. You see checks arriving in the mail with soothing regularity. You see yourself shrugging nonchalantly when friends ask, "How do you make money?" You see yourself responding with a humble smile, "Oh, systems." You picture a life where your biggest stress is choosing between the lake house or the mountain cabin for the weekend. You open your eyes and add another arrow for good luck. But then slowly, you begin to consider the mechanics. Who are these dozens of strangers? Where will you find them? Why would they sell toothpaste at 3 a.m.? Why would anyone sell toothpaste at 3 a.m.? You push these questions aside because they disrupt the serenity of your vision. This isn't the time for realism. This is the time for diagramming destiny. You take a sip of lukewarm coffee, now the official beverage of ambition, and lean back to admire your masterpiece. The paper is crowded with circles, arrows, dollar signs, a motivational quote you scribbled in the corner. Success begins with you, and what appears to be a small doodle of yourself standing atop a mountain of product inventory. You feel an odd sense of peace settle over you. This moment right here feels like success. The planning, the dreaming, the certainty that the universe is preparing its abundance, even if it's currently trapped somewhere inside a warehouse full of Amway toiletries. You sigh contentedly, blissfully unaware that passive income is rarely passive and often not income. Still, you fold the diagram carefully, slide it into your success manual, and pat it with satisfaction. You whisper, "Soon," like a movie villain cradling a world domination blueprint. And maybe someday the universe will reward your optimism. Or maybe you'll just get really good at drawing circles. Either way, tonight you sleep like someone whose imaginary toothpaste empire is already thriving. You enter an auditorium filled with thousands of people chanting slogans like they're summoning wealth demons. Someone on stage screams about financial freedom, and fireworks go off indoors. You feel both inspired and mildly concerned about fire codes. The energy hits you like a warm gust of motivational wind. It smells faintly of hairspray, ambition, and discounted cologne. People are waving glow sticks, pumping their fists and shouting phrases you've only ever seen printed on decorative office posters. You stand there, clutching your complimentary name badge, hoping no one can tell you're already overwhelmed. A booming voice echoes across the space. Who here wants success? The crowd erupts in a unified roar so powerful you're almost lifted off the ground. You raise your hand halfway, unsure if this is a question or a command. The people beside you, both wearing matching branded windbreakers, cheer so loudly your eardrums file a noise complaint. The stage lights swirl dramatically, illuminating a giant banner that reads "Believe and Achieve," in a font so enthusiastic it looks like it drank 3 cups of coffee. A series of motivational speakers march onto the stage one by one, each more electrifying than the last. They pace, gesture, shout, laugh, cry, sometimes all in the same sentence. You've never seen adults so unabashedly emotional about cleaning products. One speaker tells a story about how he went from the brink of despair to top of the mountain thanks to the business. The audience cries, he cries, you feel pressured to cry, but the closest you get is blinking a little too hard. He gestures toward the rafters, proclaiming, "If I can do it, you can do it." The crowd loses its mind. You nod vigorously, even though you're not entirely sure what it is. Then comes the parade. A line of decorated individuals, diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, rubies, and other ranks that sound suspiciously like Pokemon gym badges, stride across the stage holding giant checks. Enormous, comically oversized checks. The kind you'd expect someone to win on a game show after solving a puzzle involving vowels. Each rank receives its own theme music, its own burst of pyrotechnics, and its own standing ovation. You clap until your hands ache, partly because it's expected, and partly because you can't tell whether or not clapping triggers a trapdoor. Your upline spots you in the crowd and waves, beaming like a proud parent at a kindergarten recital. They mouth, "That will be you one day," pointing at a diamond couple wearing coordinated suits that shimmer under the lights. You try to imagine yourself in a glittery blazer, receiving a giant check while cannons shoot confetti over your head. It's strangely appealing. During intermission, you're shepherded into the lobby where tables overflow with merchandise, books, tapes, binders, planners, mindset journals, and something called a success thermometer, which you suspect measures how close you are to financial enlightenment. People line up to buy armfuls of items they already own, because you can never have too much motivation in identical packaging. You attempt to make small talk with another attendee, but they immediately begin explaining the precise moment they realize they were destined for greatness, right after listening to a cassette titled "Believe Harder." You smile politely while sipping the world's most expensive bottled water, wondering if high prices are simply part of the ambiance. When the rally resumes, the lights dim and a soft, emotional piano track begins. A video plays on the massive screen. Families hugging in slow motion, cars glistening in driveways, couples walking hand in hand along beaches where the sand looks photoshopped. The narrator's voice is soothing, persuasive, and deeply committed to the idea that selling vitamins is the key to eternal happiness. You exhale slowly, letting the music wash over you. You're not sure whether you're inspired or hypnotized, maybe both. The rally has shifted from high-octane shouting to gentle dream-building propaganda. Your eyes grow heavy, the lights flicker like stars. You feel something warm and hopeful blooming in your chest. Or maybe that's just the pyrotechnics again. By the time the final speaker screams, "Go out there and build your future," the crowd surges to its feet in a tidal wave of applause. You clap too, swept up in the euphoria, the noise, the spectacle. For a fleeting moment you believe anything is possible. Then a firework misfires slightly to the left, and you're reminded, just gently, that this whole event is one hair away from violating every safety regulation ever written. But hey, if success is this loud, this bright, and this chaotic, maybe you're ready for it. After buying enough product to clean the entire state of Michigan, you realize the passive income hasn't started. In fact, you're losing money. But you smile through it, insisting you're investing in your future while your bank account quietly whimpers. At first, you don't notice the problem. You just think your hallway looks slightly more crowded. Then your garage begins developing organized towers of cleaning products, vitamins, shampoos, and powdered dreams. Your home starts resembling the backstage storage area of a mildly successful infomercial. You move a box to open a door. You move another to sit down. You eventually begin to suspect the boxes are reproducing. Your upline calls it inventory. You call it a structural hazard. Still, you reassure yourself that every entrepreneur needs startup materials. This is normal. This is fine. Sure, your living room now has a faint citrus scent no one asked for, but that's just the smell of possibility. and lemon-powered financial freedom. But then comes the moment of reckoning. The moment you sit at your dining table, your old dining table, before it was repurposed as a motivational battlefield, and look at your first monthly statement. The numbers don't lie. In fact, the numbers are screaming. They are screaming in bold font and possibly in italics. Your expenses tower over your income like a motivational speaker, looming over a scared audience member. You blink at the math, shake your head, and whisper the phrase every new Amway distributor learns instinctively. It's all part of the process. You tell yourself that Jeff Bezos probably didn't turn a profit right away either. You imagine yourself someday giving an interview. Oh yes, I lost money at first. That's how excellence is forged. Never mind that Bezos didn't stockpile enough detergent to supply a small nation. Details. Your spouse approaches cautiously, holding the statement like it's evidence in a crime. They ask very gently, "Is this supposed to happen?" You nod with a confidence that belongs in a nature documentary, specifically the part where a small animal pretends it's much larger to avoid predators. It's not a loss, you say, gesturing at the wall of shampoo cases. It's inventory momentum. Your spouse stares at you. That's not a thing. But you wave them off, because the cassette tapes have taught you that negativity is the enemy, and you must banish it before it grows legs and ruins your potential. Still, every time you open your wallet, a small emotional breeze blows through the empty space where money used to live. Your credit card trembles when you pick it up. Your bank app now opens with a certain heaviness, like it's bracing itself for whatever new purchase you've rationalized with the phrase business expense. To make matters worse, your downline is not expanding at the projected cosmic pace you drew on your vision board. In fact, your downline remains exactly one person, and they have recently started avoiding your calls. Meanwhile, your upline insists you're on the cusp of explosive growth. You're not sure whose growth they're referring to, because it's definitely not your bank account. You begin finding creative ways to justify your situation. This isn't a hole, you tell yourself. This is an investment valley. This isn't financial strain. This is pre-profit positioning. This isn't a crisis. This is character development. But late at night, when the house is quiet and even the detergent towers seem to exhale, you let the truth seep in. You might have made a mistake. A lemon-scented, vitamin-infused, aggressively motivational mistake. And yet, and this is the wild part, you don't quit, because a small piece of you still believes, still hopes, still pictures a future where these boxes aren't symbols of miscalculation, but the origin story of your empire. So you take a breath, straighten your shoulders, and repeat the mantra that keeps you going. It's not debt, it's destiny. Your bank account disagrees. It weeps softly in the distance. But you turn up a motivational tape and whisper, "Not today. Financial reality. Not today." People you've known for years now cross the street when they see you. You wonder if it's something you said. Then remember you invited them to 6 opportunity meetings in 1 month. Social life. Deleted. At first, you don't notice the shift. You think your friends are just busy, the way adults always pretend to be when they don't want to do something. You spend a week convincing yourself everyone is just overwhelmed with work, or family, or an intense desire to alphabetize their spice cabinets. Anything but the truth. But then patterns emerge. Your calls go straight to voicemail. Your texts are met with the chilling, silent judgment of seen. People you grew up with, people who once helped you move heavy furniture, now dodge behind parked cars when they spot you walking down the sidewalk, clutching your briefcase full of brochures like a missionary of lemon-scented salvation. And deep down you know why. You've become that friend. The one who starts every conversation with, "Hey, can I run something by you really quick?" The one who stares too intensely during brunch. the one who casually slides a brochure across the table like it's a hostage negotiation. The one who, worst of all, uses the phrase ground floor opportunity in public. Your friends remember you as someone who once talked about movies, vacations, weird neighbours. Now every conversation devolves into circles and arrows, and the promise of passive income so magical, it might as well require wizard certification. It all came to a head the night you invited everyone over just to catch up, only for them to discover your whiteboard waiting smugly in the living room like a trapdoor. The betrayal was palpable. You tried to soften it. It'll just take a few minutes. But the moment you uncapped a red marker, half the room evacuated like you'd pulled a fire alarm. One friend stayed behind out of pity but spent the whole time gripping their coat like a parachute. After that, the exodus began. People who used to greet you warmly now wave from a distance, the way you'd wave at a raccoon rummaging through your trash, acknowledging its existence but unwilling to get involved. Invitations to parties, game nights, or casual dinners vanish. You check your mailbox for handwritten notes, then remember it's 1970-something and everyone uses telephones now except to talk to you. Even acquaintances start acting weird. The guy who bags your groceries suddenly becomes extremely invested in rearranging produce. Your barber mysteriously books up the moment you walk in. Your next-door neighbour closes his blinds when you step outside, peeking through them like you're trying to sell him divine enlightenment in the form of concentrated surface cleaner. Your spouse notices too. One afternoon they gently ask, "When was the last time you saw anyone socially?" You open your mouth to answer, but instead picture your friends sprinting to avoid you like you're carrying a contagious pyramid. Still, you convince yourself it's temporary. But once your friends see your success, once the diamond rank glimmers under your name, they'll come crawling back. You picture yourself smiling graciously as they say things like, "Wow, we should have listened." This fantasy comforts you until you call your best friend again and hear them tell a child in the background, if the phone rings and it's Uncle, "We're not home." Ouch. But here's the strangest part. Even as your social circle shrinks to the size of a bath mat, you keep going. The tapes told you this would happen. When you rise, they said, others resist. You assume that meant jealous rivals, not your bowling league, and yet something oddly peaceful settles in. With fewer friends to dodge you, you suddenly have more time to work the business, more evenings to call leads, more weekends to attend rallies, more living room space now that no one comes over. Your social life may have flatlined, but your motivational fervour? Thriving. One night, you sit on your couch, surrounded by sample packs, rejected invitations, and the faint lemon scent of your destiny, and you whisper the comforting mantra that gets you through it all. It's not that they're avoiding me, it's that they aren't ready for success. Your houseplants look unconvinced, but you believe it anyway. You casually mention the wonders of Amway dish soap at a wedding. You pitch vitamins to your dentist. You give your mailman a brochure just in case he's hungry for opportunity. You've become the MLM equivalent of a pop-up ad. It happens gradually, like a slow leak in your personality. One minute you're making normal small talk about the weather, your kids, the price of gas. The next, you're weaving in phrases like high-quality concentrated formulation without noticing the horrified expressions forming around you. You start seeing every human interaction as a prospecting opportunity. No moment is too sacred. No conversation is too unrelated. At the wedding reception, you're seated between a second cousin and a friend of the bride. The DJ is playing soft disco, champagne is flowing, and love is in the air. So naturally, you launch into a monologue about the impressive efficiency of your preferred dish detergent. You tell them how it cuts grease, extends savings, and aligns with your long-term wealth-building goals. Your table mates nod politely, the way one might nod at a stranger on the bus who seems unstable but harmless. By the time the cake is served, you've passed out 3 brochures and convinced the groom's uncle to consider an additional income stream. Moments later, the DJ announces the bouquet toss and half the room scatters, but you know deep down they might also be avoiding another product demonstration. Your transformation doesn't stop there. At the dentist's office, you bring a brochure instead of floss, while trapped beneath the blinding overhead light and the gentle whirring of dental tools, you begin pitching high-potency nutritional supplements to a man whose fingers are literally inside your mouth. You attempt to say synergistic botanical extracts, but it comes out as muffled nonsense. The dentist nods sympathetically, chalking it up to anxiety. You leave the office feeling proud of your entrepreneurial initiative. The hygienist throws away your brochure as soon as you exit the parking lot. Even routine errands become fertile recruiting ground. You see the world as one giant pyramid, opportunity structure, and everyone you meet belongs somewhere in it. The grocery store cashier, potential downline, the librarian stamping your books. Maybe she wants financial freedom. The stranger who accidentally bumps your cart, clearly in need of detergent powerful enough to cleanse their shame. Your mailman receives the worst of it. The poor man just wants to deliver envelopes and avoid small talk. But you stop him mid-route, brochure in hand, eyes bright with purpose. Just in case you're hungry for opportunity, you say, handing him the glossy pamphlet like it's contraband. He blinks twice, pockets it out of professional obligation, and speeds away in his postal truck with the urgency of a man fleeing mild danger. By now, your spouse has noticed the shift. They pull you aside one evening after you spend 20 minutes explaining the benefits of multi-purpose cleaner to their sister during a funeral. You need boundaries, they insist gently. Social ones. You nod, agreeing wholeheartedly, then ask if their sister might be interested in a starter kit. Your home slowly fills with the artifacts of your transformation. Piles of brochures near the front door, sample packs in your coat pockets, business cards in your wallet, your sock drawer, your car's glove compartment. Your life becomes a walking billboard for products most people can buy at the grocery store without making a commitment to personal transformation. But the real shift happens internally. You begin narrating your own life in sales language. You no longer eat breakfast. You fuel your morning productivity window. You don't take naps, tilt their heads when you speak, as if trying to determine whether you're still in there beneath the corporate jargon. Even the dog looks at you differently, probably because you tried to recruit your neighbour's dog into a pet wellness pilot program. And yet there's a small spark inside you that feels proud. You're committed. You're focused. You're promoting products with the fervour of someone who truly believes in the power of soap. Still, one night as you rehearse your pitch in the bathroom mirror, a thought flicker across your mind. When did I stop being a person and start being a brochure in human form? You stare at your reflection, pamphlet in hand. You smile anyway, because even brochures have glossy covers. You meet a couple who claim to have retired at 29 thanks to Amway. They drive a car slightly nicer than yours, but claim it's just temporary until the Jaguar arrives. You nod politely, pretending not to notice their suit still has a clearance tag on it. The couple radiates a confidence so potent it could power a small city. They glide into the seminar room as though floating, smiling, waving, wearing matching outfits in the exact shade of prosperous beige. They speak with practiced ease, like televangelists of financial freedom. Their voice is smooth enough to be used as fabric softener. Your upline treats them like royalty. Whispering reverently, these are top-tier earners. You try not to look surprised. They seem nice enough, but something about their presentation screams modest middle management rather than covert millionaires. Still, you keep an open mind. These are the people you're supposed to learn from. The chosen few whose success stories fuel the motivational tapes currently taking over your car. They begin telling their story on stage, microphone in hand, posture straight enough to qualify for military precision. "We retired at 29, the husband announces proudly, all thanks to this incredible business model. The crowd bursts into applause. You clap too, partly out of politeness, and partly because the person next to you is clapping aggressively and you fear peer pressure more than anything. Then they dive into the details. They talk about struggle, sacrifice, grit, yet somehow manage to make it sound glamorous, like sleeping in cars and maxing out credit cards were necessary rites of passage. They describe waking up one morning to discover they were financially free. You picture them stretching luxuriously in silk pajamas, but based on their current outfits, it was probably more of a cotton poly blend. After the presentation, you gather around them with the crowd, eager for wisdom. Up close, their millionaire status grows even more mysterious. The husband's watch looks vaguely shiny but suspiciously lightweight. The wife's handbag is stylish in a way that suggests it was purchased inspired by something designer, and their shoes, well, let's just say the soles have seen many motivational convention centres. But none of this dampens their enthusiasm. They speak about abundance with the same passion a grandmother uses when describing her favourite casserole recipe. At one point, the husband leans in and whispers, "The Jaguar is coming any day now." You nod solemnly, as though this is a prophecy of great spiritual significance. They show you pictures of their future home, a laminated printout of a mansion clipped from a real estate magazine. Visualization is key, the wife insists, tapping the picture with a manicured finger. We like to keep our dreams close. You resist the urge to ask why they don't also keep the real Jaguar close, since apparently it is always just 1 month away. Their advice is simple: believe harder, work harder, recruit harder, listen to more tapes, go to more rallies, eat vitamins, sell everything that isn't nailed down. The path to wealth, they insist, is paved with unwavering positivity and a garage full of biodegradable cleaning solutions. As they speak, you notice their clearance tags flutter slightly with each gesture. You wonder whether they know the tags are still attached, or if removing them would somehow break the spell of effortless prosperity they're projecting. Despite the questionable indicators, you find yourself captivated. Their optimism is intoxicating. You want to believe them. You want to believe in easy success, in destined wealth, in jaguars that materialize because you visualized hard enough and maybe for a moment. You do? They end their session with a powerful statement. "We're not just millionaires in the bank," the husband says, touching his heart. "We're millionaires in here." The crowd erupts again, moved by the poetic vagueness. But later, when they walk to their temporary car, a used sedan with a missing hubcap, you feel a gentle tug of reality. You're not sure if they're rich, almost rich, aspiring to be rich, or simply very talented at pretending. But one thing is clear. When a millionaire talks about abundance while wearing a suit that still has the sale tag dangling, you smile, nod, and keep visualizing your own Jaguar. Your spouse gently suggests maybe this isn't the path to riches. You gently suggest they're not believing in the process. The conversation spirals. You apologize later. They accept, but also hide the checkbook. It starts as a small conversation, one of those quiet, late evening check-ins couples do when the house is still, and even the dog seems to be contemplating the meaning of existence. Your spouse leans against the doorway, arms crossed, eyes soft but concerned. They ask a simple question. "How much have we spent so far?" You freeze. Because you know the answer. Your spouse knows the answer. The garage full of industrial strength detergent definitely knows the answer. But you launch into the speech anyway. The one the tapes told you to give. It's not spending, you say, with the serene confidence of someone auditioning to be a monk. It's investing. It's planting seeds. It's wealth-building psychology. You toss in words like momentum and scaling for good measure, even though you're not entirely sure they belong in the sentence. Your spouse just stares at you, blinking slowly, like someone watching a raccoon try to use a vending machine. They remind you, very gently, that money is real and limited, that bills exist, that the electric company does not accept future passive income as payment. They mention the shrinking savings account, the rising stress, the growing mountain of boxes in the hallway you've started calling inventory terrain. You inhale deeply and summon the line every motivational speaker has etched into your soul. You have to believe before you see results. Your spouse raises an eyebrow. I'd like to see receipts before belief. This is where it goes downhill. You hear yourself saying phrases that do not sound like you, phrases like scarcity mindset and blocking your own blessings. Your spouse squints, as though trying to determine whether you're quoting a self-help seminar or speaking in tongues. Then comes the final blow. I just don't think this is sustainable. And you, buoyed by caffeine, cassette tapes and unearned optimism, respond, that's because you're not believing in the process. Silence. A long, heavy, marital silence. Your spouse looks at you the way someone looks at a person who has just attempted to microwave aluminum. A mixture of disbelief, fear, and resignation. The conversation spirals, not dramatically, no shouting, no slammed doors. Just two exhausted people trying to make sense of dreams, pressure, and one partner who has fallen a little too deeply into the motivational abyss. You insist success is around the corner. Your spouse insists corners are where people get mugged by reality. Eventually, they leave the room with the sigh of someone who is mourning the loss of their peaceful living room. Later that night, long after the house goes quiet, you feel the guilt settle in. You replay your words and cringe at the tone. You find your spouse sitting on the edge of the bed, reading quietly, wrapped in the kind of calm sadness that slices deeper than anger. You apologize. Not a half-hearted, performative apology, a real one, soft and clumsy. For both of us, they say. You want to. For both of us, they say. You want to argue. You want to promise you'll be responsible. You want to insist you don't need supervision. But in your heart, you know they made the right call. If left unchecked, you would absolutely purchase another 48-pack of motivational tapes at the next rally. The two of you crawl into bed. The sheets are warm, the fan hums softly, and for a moment the MLM world fades into the background. You remember that real wealth isn't circles on a whiteboard or imaginary downlines. It's this quiet space you share with someone who hasn't given up on you, even if they've given up on letting you handle financial instruments. You fall asleep thinking, maybe passive income is great, but a patient spouse? That's the real miracle product. You discover there are levels in this business: emerald, diamond, crown, super crown, possibly supreme galactic crown. You're not sure, but you want one, even though no one explains what they actually mean. The ranks are first mentioned casually, as if everyone in the room should already know what they are. People toss around words like ruby qualification window and double diamond bonus structure with the ease of weather commentary. You nod along, pretending you understand the way you once pretended to understand algebra, while silently begging the universe for a calculator with feelings. Your upline pulls out a laminated chart, because of course it's laminated, and shows you a pyramid-shaped diagram they insist is not a pyramid. They tap each level with the reverence of a medieval monk, illuminating a holy manuscript. This, they say, pointing to the bottom, is where you begin. The bottom looks crowded, very crowded, like a stadium stuffed entirely with beginner entrepreneurs clutching sample kits. Then they point to the top. The peak glows with a mystical aura, possibly because of the overhead lighting, but you swear you hear faint angelic humming. "This is diamond," they whisper, as though saying the name too loudly might summon something. You stare at it, mesmerized, imagining velvet robes, gold-plated briefcases, personal assistants, maybe even a special parking space at rallies with your name on it. What does Diamond get, you ask, eager? Your upline smiles mysteriously. Leadership. You blink. Leadership of what? A medieval army? The detergent aisle? A small militia of regional salespeople? They do not elaborate. Then you learn there are other ranks: emerald, sapphire, ruby, titanium, quartz. You're not entirely sure if these are business titles or updates about your Pokemon card collection. Every rank comes with a special pin, which is apparently the true currency of the realm. People wear them proudly, tapping them with their fingers as if they're capable of granting supernatural power. At rallies, the hierarchy becomes impossible to ignore. People with higher ranks glide through crowds like celebrities, trailed by a faint breeze of respect and lemon-scented cleaning spray. Others part like the Red Sea to let them pass. You realize you've stumbled into a world where lapel pins function the same way crowns once did in ancient empires. Your desire for a rank grows. You don't just want a pin, you crave it. You imagine pinning one to your jacket while your spouse watches with reluctant admiration. You picture walking into a room and someone whispering, "There goes a diamond." The fantasy sends a shiver down your spine. But still you have no clue what the ranks do. You try to ask. Every answer is vague. It's about building your organization, someone says. It's about duplication, another chimes in. It's about unlocking your inner potential, someone else offers. This last explanation comes from a woman who has clearly said the phrase a lot, as she delivers it with the robotic intensity of a motivational wind-up toy. One evening you spread all your brochures, manuals and charts across the dining table like a crime investigator trying to solve a case. You draw arrows, you circle things, you reread every rank description. After 2 hours, you still have no idea what distinguishes emerald from diamond except maybe the number of motivational tapes you're required to listen to weekly. You look up, dazed. Your spouse stands in the doorway holding a mug, eyebrows raised. "You okay?" they ask. "I'm trying to understand the hierarchy," you say, gesturing at your sprawling diagram. They glance at it once. "Oh, good luck with that," they say, kissing your forehead in the sympathetic way someone kisses a person who has chosen a difficult but noble path, like climbing Everest or assembling IKEA furniture without cursing. Still, you persist. Because deep down, something primal has awakened in you. A competitive instinct. A desire to climb the strange, confusing, shimmering ladder, no matter how unclear its rungs may be. You place a hand over the diamond level on the chart, letting your fingers rest on the glossy paper. "Someday," you whisper, and maybe you don't know what it means. But that has never stopped anyone in Amway before. Every setback is rebranded as momentum. Every failure is part of the journey. You begin saying things like, "The only difference between try and triumph is a little oomph." You used to be normal. What begins as a simple attempt to stay positive slowly mutates into a full-blown personality transplant. You wake up each morning repeating affirmations with the intensity of a monk who has seen the face of destiny. And that destiny is apparently cleaning supplies. You tape inspirational quotes to your bathroom mirror. You stick post-its with phrases like "believe bigger" to the refrigerator. You whisper "success is my birthright" to your coffee as if trying to spiritually season it. It doesn't matter what happens, you spin it. Everything is opportunity. Everything is progress. You could trip down the stairs and twist your ankle and still find yourself murmuring, "Well, pain is just potential growing in disguise." You barely recognize yourself. Your spouse begins noticing the transformation before you do. You used to say things like, "That was annoying," or "Today was rough." Now, after spilling an entire box of detergent across the living room floor, you smile and say, "Wow, what a chance to practice abundance." Your spouse stares at you, wondering if they should call a doctor, a motivational speaker, or an exorcist. Meanwhile, your upline fuels the fire. They preach optimism like it's oxygen. Didn't get any recruits this week. That's not a problem. That's momentum building beneath the surface. Didn't sell anything. No worries. You're setting the stage for a historic comeback. Lost 3 friends because they're tired of hearing about residual income? Beautiful. You're making space for higher vibration relationships. Deep down, you start to feel like you're trapped in a feedback loop powered by denial, caffeine and cassette tapes recorded by men who haven't blinked since the early 70s. But you keep going. Because the alternative is facing the truth, and that's not in the workbook. You begin sprinkling motivational quotes into every conversation, even ones that don't call for it. When your spouse says the car won't start, you respond, "Every breakdown is just a breakthrough getting ready." When your child complains about homework, you put a hand on their shoulder and whisper, "Success is simply failure with enthusiasm." Your child stares at you like you've been replaced by a malfunctioning fortune cookie. And somewhere along the way, you stop reacting like a normal human. Rain on the day of your big meeting? Perfect. Rain nourishes growth. Your downline quits. Beautiful. That's the universe clearing misaligned energy. Your check from Amway arrives and it's negative somehow. Incredible. This just shows there's nowhere to go but up. You start to genuinely believe that optimism is not just a mindset, it's a strategy, a business model, a spiritual calling, a personality trait on steroids. But it's exhausting. Behind the scenes, in quiet moments between phone calls and presentations, reality tries to tap you on the shoulder. Small doubts appear, gentle but persistent, like little emotional fruit flies. You swat them away automatically, because doubts are limiting beliefs, and limiting beliefs are success blockers, and success blockers are vibrational misalignments, and vibrational misalignments are optional. You don't even know what that means, but you say it anyway. One night, after a long rally and an even longer pep talk from your upline, you lie in bed staring at the ceiling. The motivational tape continues playing softly on the nightstand, the narrator whispering, "You are unstoppable. You are powerful. You're the architect of your abundance." You take a breath. You believe it. You have to. Because everything, your pride, your finances, your garage full of overstocked detergent, depends on staying locked inside this endless optimism loop. And maybe someday you'll look back and see wisdom in all of it. But right now, you're just a person lying in the dark repeating momentum. Momentum. This is momentum while your spouse quietly puts in earplugs. Just another night in the relentless pursuit of positive thinking. One night, while staring at your garage full of detergent, you think, "Wait, why am I the customer?" It's a quiet moment, a fragile moment, a dangerous moment. You quickly silence it with another motivational tape. You stand there in the dim glow of the single flickering garage bulb, arms folded, surrounded by towering cardboard monuments to your entrepreneurial journey. The boxes loom over you, stacked like oddly fragrant fortresses. For the first time, you notice the symmetry of your inventory, how each tower leans ever so slightly, as if conspiring with neighbouring boxes to block your escape. You breathe in the scent of lemon concentrate and mild financial panic. The thought creeps in uninvited. Why am I the one buying all this? It feels like spotting a crack in a stained glass window, beautiful from a distance, unsettling up close. You shuffle a step forward, accidentally kicking a loose bottle of multi-purpose cleaner. It rolls across the cement floor, making a little rattling sound, like detergent-based guilt. You try to ignore the feeling. The tapes have warned you about moments like this, moments when your inner skeptic tries to sabotage your greatness. So you reach over to your portable tape player, hit play, and let a mustached man shout affirmations at you through static. "Doubt is the enemy," he cries. "Believe bigger," he demands. You nod, reassured, even though deep down the question lingers stubbornly, like an eyelash stuck to your cheek. Still, the thought refuses to die. You pick up one of the bottles and read the label as though seeing it for the first time. You flip it over. You examine the price. You mentally calculate how many friends, neighbours, co-workers and curious pigeons it would take to convert this inventory into something resembling income. The math is not comforting. A chill runs down your spine, not from the cold garage air, but from the dawning possibility that you may in fact be your own number one customer. Then another thought surfaces. If I'm the customer, and my downline is also the customer, and their downline is also the customer is anyone not the customer, this thought is too powerful, too forbidden, too logical. You immediately smother it with the loudest tape in your collection. The speaker bellows about abundance, destiny, mindset mastery. He sounds like someone who's never allowed a single doubt to marinate for longer than half a second. You crank the volume until the garage vibrates with positivity, pushing the rational part of your brain back into whatever emotional bunker it crawled out of. Your spouse appears in the doorway, arms folded, wearing an expression halfway between concern and I told you so. They glance at the mountains of inventory and raise an eyebrow. Everything okay? They ask. You respond too quickly. Perfect. Amazing! Momentum! Your spouse nods slowly, the way a person nods at a raccoon rummaging through their pantry, sympathetic but unwilling to get closer. Once they disappear back inside, the quiet settles again, broken only by the muffled battle cries of the motivational tape. You try to reassure yourself. You walk from box to box, touching them like relics. This is not a mistake, you whisper. This is stock. Yes, strategic stock. But the words feel thin, like trying to patch a leaky boat with motivational stickers. You picture your upline's face, their blinding smile as they insisted, "Buy more inventory." More inventory means more success. You believed them, enthusiastically, blindly, passionately. Now you stare at the result. Enough detergent to survive the apocalypse, provided the apocalypse involves extremely dirty laundry. A small, treacherous voice whispers from the back of your mind. Maybe this is not how millionaires begin. You swallow hard. You shut off the motivational tape. The silence is almost too honest. But instead of confronting the truth, you do what any committed dreamer does. You dust off a box, straighten your shoulders, and whisper, "It's not a garage full of unsold detergent, it's a garage full of potential." The detergent towers remain unimpressed. But hey, at least they're lemon fresh. At a massive hotel ballroom, a man on stage says he made millions by believing. You leave buzzing with excitement, clutching your signed copy of his book. Later you learn he lives in a duplex in Ohio. The convention is held in a hotel that smells faintly of old carpet and ambition. Every hallway echoes with motivational chants, the kind you'd expect from a cult or a very enthusiastic high school pep rally. People march past you wearing badges that sparkle like costume jewellery, proudly flaunting their ranks, their optimism, and their willingness to clap at anything remotely inspirational. Inside the ballroom, the air is electric, not metaphorically, literally. Someone has plugged in too many amplifiers. The speakers crackle with the strain of delivering high-volume hope to thousands of attendees in matching blazers. Strobe lights flash, balloons bounce overhead. You half expect a tiger to be released from backstage for dramatic effect. Then he appears, the man you've been hearing about for weeks, the legend, the millionaire, the myth, the apostle of belief. He strides onto the stage wearing a suit so shiny it reflects entire sections of the ceiling. His hair is styled in the precise shape of unstoppable confidence. His smile gleams like he just sold positivity to the sun. And when he speaks, the room tilts. "I made millions," he says, pointing at his chest with the vigour of a man stabbing a ghost. "Just by believing." The crowd explodes. People leap to their feet. Someone starts crying. Someone else faints. A teenager in the back yells, "Preach!" You clap until your palms feel like microwaved pancakes. He launches into his story, how he started with nothing but a dream and a credit card, how he overcame every obstacle by staring directly into the void and chanting affirmations until the void blinked first. He talks about discipline. He talks about grit. He talks about tapping into cosmic abundance, which he says with a straight face despite the fact that there's a disco ball behind him. As he talks, slideshows flash across the giant screens. Mansions, yachts, tropical vacations, luxury cars, each one accompanied by triumphant orchestral music. Never mind that the photos look oddly generic, like they were pulled from a stock image library called Wealth Dreams 1974. By the time he finishes, you feel like electricity is surging through your veins. You want a yacht, you want a mansion, you want cosmic abundance. You want to stand on a stage and shout vaguely mystical financial advice at strangers. You want a shiny suit that doubles as a reflective safety vest. The book signing is the final act. Believe harder above his name. You thank Believe harder above his name. You thank him. He thanks you. For what? You're not sure. But everything feels important. You leave the convention in a daze, floating through the hotel lobby like you've been blessed. The automatic doors slide open dramatically, as if ushering you toward your destiny. You walk to your car with renewed purpose. The world seems brighter, the air seems sweeter. Even your overstocked garage inventory feels like it's about to become gold bars. For 2 days, you ride the high. You listen to his voice on cassette. You repeat his affirmations in the mirror. You fantasize about your future duplex, no mansion. Then a friend casually mentions that they grew up near him, that he lives in a very normal duplex, that the most luxurious thing he owns is a gas grill he bought on clearance. You freeze. You blink. You picture the shiny suit, the dazzling smile, the cosmic abundance, the slideshow of mansions that smelled suspiciously like Florida real estate ads. You feel something inside you wobble, your belief, your excitement, your sense of who exactly is making millions off whom. But you shake it off. He's probably just being humble, you say, even though the man has never displayed a humble molecule in his life. And deep down you know the truth. Belief may not actually buy you a mansion, but it can sell a lot of books. Among your fellow distributors, a subtle rebellion brews. People start admitting, quietly, that they're not actually making money. These conversations occur in hallways, bathrooms, and behind stacks of unsold vitamins. At first, you think it's just you who feels a little wobbly, a little financially fragile, a little concerned about the fact that your garage now smells like a lemon-scented fallout shelter. But then, at your next big meeting, you notice a shift, like the faint tremor before a landslide. A few distributors gather near the coffee table, speaking in hushed tones, glancing around like nervous squirrels. You wander closer. They stop talking immediately, smiling at you with exaggerated enthusiasm. Too enthusiastic. Kind of enthusiasm someone wears when they're trying to hide a crime or smuggle a raccoon out of a supermarket. You offer them a cup of coffee. They politely decline, and then after a long pause one of them whispers, "So are you making money?" It feels like you've been invited into a forbidden club. You hesitate, unsure if this is a trap orchestrated by the upline to identify weaklings. But their eyes, wide, desperate, slightly haunted, tell the truth. These are people on the brink, people who have made one too many inventory investments, people who have smiled through their last motivational cassette before snapping like a pretzel under emotional strain. You answer cautiously, well, not yet. Their relief is immediate and profound. One woman exhales like she's been holding her breath since 1973. Another pats your shoulder, whispering, "Thank God, I thought it was just me." And just like that, the alliance forms. A quiet coalition of hopeful but exhausted individuals questioning whether belief alone can sustain a household budget. The secret conversations start multiplying. In the hallway outside the meeting room, a man with a clipboard leans in close, murmuring, "I haven't sold a single case this month." He glances side to side as though expecting a diamond-level leader to burst from a potted plant and shout negativity. In the bathroom, two women huddle by the sinks, whispering urgently over the sound of running faucets. "My husband thinks I joined a cult," one confesses. "Mine too," the other replies. "But honestly, at least cults provide snacks." Behind a towering stack of unsold vitamins, your new version of a confession booth, you find three distributors murmuring statistics at one another, each quietly attempting to determine whether the path to emerald rank is mathematically possible or just a myth passed down like folklore. You join them, nodding solemnly as someone asks, "Do you think anyone actually makes money?" Someone else responds, "The diamonds, maybe." A third whispers, "Only if you count applause as currency." You all nod as if this explains everything. These whispered doubts never happen in public spaces. During meetings, everyone is a ray of sunshine dipped in liquid optimism. People cheer, they clap, they insist their dreams are manifesting in real time, even if their dreams currently resemble a garage filled with unsold laundry detergent. But the moment the official session ends, the truth leaks out like air from a balloon. The bathroom becomes the Wall Street of MLM skepticism. The hallway becomes an underground resistance group. Even the parking lot transforms into a sanctuary of whispered fears. People lean against their cars under the glow of street lamps, confessing with trembling vulnerability. "I thought I'd be rich by now. I maxed out a credit card for vitamins. My downline quit, and now I'm technically my own downline." One man even admits, "I tried to recruit my cat. He walked away." Yet despite everything, the financial black hole, the exhaustion, the quiet confessions, you will show up again the next week. Because hope is powerful, because belief is magnetic, because the motivational tapes say quitting is failure sculpted into surrender, and because secretly each of you thinks, "If I just try one more month, maybe it'll turn around." The whisper network knows the truth, but the louder network, the one blasting affirmations and fireworks, keeps drowning it out. Still, in the quiet moments, behind the vitamin towers and hallway whispers, you finally understand. You're not alone. You're just all stuck in the same optimistic pickle. Your garage fills, your attic fills, even the trunk of your car fills. At one point, you open a closet and an avalanche of shampoo bottles nearly takes you out. You consider building a small house out of them. It all started innocently enough, just one extra case of detergent for demonstration purposes. But that one case became 3, then 10, then a small mountain range of cleaning supplies that now casts a literal shadow across your garage. You used to park your car in there. Now you're lucky if you can wedge yourself between the shampoo towers and the vitamin cliffs without triggering a chemical landslide. The strangest part, you barely remember ordering half of it. Boxes simply appear on your doorstep like offerings from the UPS gods. Your neighbours watch the deliveries with growing concern. The mailman has started leaving your packages more gently, as though afraid the sheer pressure of accumulated products might cause a chain reaction. Inside your home, things aren't better. The attic, once a peaceful resting place for holiday decorations and forgotten childhood mementos, is now a storage bunker of dubious structural integrity. You climb the ladder one afternoon and discover the shampoo bottles have formed a small, self-governing community. You back away slowly, unsure whether disturbing them will create an international incident. Your hall closet is the most dangerous. It looks harmless from the outside, just a normal door in a normal hallway. But the moment you open it, gravity performs a stunt you didn't know it was capable of. A tidal wave of shampoo bottles spills out, knocking you backward as if the universe is making a very lemon-scented point. You lie there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is how early settlers felt when buried by grain silos. Even your car isn't safe. You pop the trunk to load groceries one afternoon, only to remember that the trunk no longer belongs to you. It belongs to Amway. It is now a mobile warehouse, stocked so fully that every speed bump causes the interior to sound like 1,000 plastic maracas shaking in protest. You consider unloading it, but the thought of carrying all that inventory back into the house gives you a mild existential crisis. Your spouse watches the chaos unfold with a face that cycles through several emotional stages: confusion, alarm, resignation, and finally the calm acceptance of someone who has decided to emotionally detach from the situation for the sake of survival. One night over dinner they ask, "Do we need all this?" You nod with the solemnity of a monk. It's inventory volume. They stare at you as if you've just announced you joined a space colony. Meanwhile, your upline insists this is good. Stock means commitment, they say. Stock means readiness. You're not entirely sure readiness for what, but at this point you could survive a global shampoo shortage well into the next century, maybe two. There's a moment around the time you stack your 50th bottle of conditioner into a precarious tower that you wonder if you've gone too far. You briefly imagine constructing a tiny village out of the boxes and living there. A shampoo hut, a vitamin chapel, a detergent fortress. It feels strangely achievable. Friends who come over, rare as that is now, start making comments like, "Wow, that's a lot of soap," while slowly backing toward the exit. Even your dog avoids the garage, sensing something unholy brewing among the cardboard towers. You begin to feel like a dragon hoarding treasure, except your treasure is body wash and powdered laundry boosters. Eventually, storage becomes a full-blown crisis. You rearrange furniture, you stack boxes under beds, you fill cupboards, crawl spaces, and at one point the bathtub. You tell your spouse it's temporary, even though neither of you believes it. The shampoo avalanche incident is still too fresh, and then late one night you sit among the towering product stacks in your garage, cross-legged like a monk meditating in a fluorescent-lit monastery. You take a deep breath. You whisper to yourself, "This is abundance." But the truth floats quietly beneath the surface. You are one shipment away from declaring your home an official warehouse. Still, at least, everything smells amazing. The optimism begins to crack. The cassette tapes don't hit like they used to. The flip chart circles now look like donuts of despair. You begin dreaming of an ordinary job where nobody expects you to recruit their aunt. It sneaks up on you quietly like a draft under a door. One morning you wake up and instead of leaping out of bed fueled by motivational fumes, you stare at the ceiling wondering how you got here. You used to have hobbies, a personality, weekends. Now your life revolves around detergent, downlines, and the persistent fear that someone will ask you how much you've earned so far. You shuffle into the kitchen and put on a cassette tape out of habit, but the voice, the booming, confident, motivational voice that once made your spine tingle with ambition, now sounds like someone shouting through a cardboard tube. "Success is a decision," the man yells, but your brain translates it as, "Please stop yelling." You turn the volume down, then down again. Eventually, you just eject the tape altogether and let the silence ring in your ears like a small truth trying to break through. They slide a newspaper toward you, a real newspaper, with real job listings, and for a moment you imagine yourself sitting at a normal desk again, filling out normal forms, dealing with normal people who will not try to sell you powdered vitamins. But then guilt swirls in your chest. You're supposed to be positive. You're supposed to visualize your empire. You're supposed to banish doubt like it's a fruit fly hovering near your dreams. So you sit up straighter, force a smile, and say something cheerful like, "Momentum is just disguised progress." Your spouse nods, wearing the expression of someone who hears the words but not the hope behind them. Throughout the day, small cracks widen. You stare at your flip chart, once a beacon of possibility, now a sagging monument to circular thinking. The markers have dried out. The circles you drew yesterday look more like confused lopsided pastries than pathways to residual income. You try to draw a fresh diagram, but halfway through, the marker dies entirely. You take it as a sign. Phone calls become harder. You dial numbers slowly, hesitantly, praying for voicemail. When someone actually answers, you panic. The pitch that once glided off your tongue now feels heavy and over-rehearsed, like reading poetry at gunpoint. Have you ever thought about being your own boss? You squeak, but even you don't sound convinced anymore. They decline, politely. You thank them anyway and hang up with relief so deep it feels suspicious. By afternoon, the burnout hits like a gentle, exhausting tidal wave. The shine wears off everything. Your brochures, your motivational posters, your meticulously arranged product pyramids. Even your inventory seems tired. The shampoo bottles stare at you from their shelf like bored soldiers awaiting orders you can no longer give. The doubt, once a whisper, becomes a soft murmur that follows you from room to room. Is this working? Is this worth it? Is this me? You try to shake it off with a walk. Fresh air, sunshine, perspective. But as you stroll past houses filled with people living ordinary, peaceful lives, people who are not calculating downlines in their spare time, you feel envy flutter beneath your ribs. You picture yourself working at a regular job again. A job where your performance isn't tied to enthusiasm. A job where you don't have to memorize scripts. A job where your success doesn't depend on whether Marge from PTA buys an energy drink starter pack. Just a job. The thought is embarrassingly comforting. By nightfall, you collapse onto the couch, wrapped in a blanket of defeat. The dog curls beside you, offering silent support. Your spouse joins you, handing over a cup of tea and resting their hand on your shoulder. No words are exchanged, none are needed. You take a slow sip, letting the warmth settle in. Maybe the journey isn't over. Maybe you'll rally tomorrow. But tonight you're just a tired person sitting in a house full of shampoo, quietly craving a life where the only thing you have to sell is your time from 9 to 5. You finally look at the chart and ask, if everyone has to recruit and everyone above gets paid, who exactly is buying all this product? The answer lives uncomfortably in your garage. It hits you on a Tuesday night, of all nights, the universal evening of mild existential dread. You're sitting at your dining table surrounded by brochures, motivational notes, and a whiteboard that has suffered an emotional breakdown from overuse. You stare at the diagram you've drawn for the 1,000th time. Circles under circles under circles, all connected with happy arrows pointing toward a financially liberated future. But this time, something feels off. You lean closer. You squint. You turn the whiteboard sideways, hoping inspiration will strike at a different angle. It doesn't. Instead, the truth becomes clearer, alarmingly clearer, like someone suddenly turned on the overhead light in a dimly lit restaurant. This looks familiar. Not familiar in a comforting way. Familiar in the way a detective recognizes a suspect. The shape, the structure, the undeniable geometry of it all. You whisper to yourself, it's a triangle, not a business model, not a distribution arc, not a success ladder, a triangle. Your breath catches. You look around the room to make sure no one heard you say it aloud, because uttering the P word is forbidden. It's like invoking a dark spell. Or admitting you actually enjoyed decaf coffee. You turn your attention back to the whiteboard. Every hypothetical person at the bottom is expected to recruit more people, and those people must recruit more people. And somehow, somewhere, someone must actually buy the product. Your gaze drifts toward the hallway, toward the closet, toward the garage, the place where the truth waits. You open the garage door slowly, like a character in a horror movie approaching the last room in the haunted mansion. The light flickers, and there it is, Mount Inventory. Boxes upon boxes, towers upon towers, enough detergent to cleanse the sins of an entire small nation. Enough vitamins to fortify a medieval army, enough shampoo to give every citizen in the tri-state area a good hair day. The truth settles in your bones. You are the customer, not your downline, not the public, not the imaginary empire you keep diagramming into existence. You force a smile. It's fine, you whisper, patting a stack of laundry boosters. This is strategic stock. But deep inside, the dawning clarity spreads like a slow, creeping sunrise. You replay every pitch you've heard. Your job is to duplicate. Everyone wins. The structure supports itself. But does it? Does it really? Or does it only support the people at the top whose garages notably appear detergent-free in every inspirational slideshow? You picture your upline's house, the tidy living room, the clean counters, the absence of even a single stray box. Suspiciously uncluttered, suspiciously inventory-free. Meanwhile, your living space is halfway to becoming a climate-controlled shampoo museum. You sit on a crate of dish soap and rub your temples, wondering how long it will take to scrub the realization from your brain. Sure, the business isn't technically a pyramid. Pyramids are ancient marvels of engineering. Pyramids last for thousands of years. This is more fragile, more dependent on optimism, more cardboard-scented. You try one last mental gymnastics routine. Maybe it's not a pyramid, maybe it's a triangle of opportunity. But triangles of opportunity do not usually require you to personally own 400 bottles of conditioner. The tape player sits on a nearby shelf. You reach toward it instinctively, the muscle memory of denial kicking in. One good motivational tape could drown out this dangerous clarity. One booming voice could yank you back into the warm, citrus-scented fog. But tonight, you hesitate. You stand in the semi-dark garage, surrounded by the literal physical manifestation of your optimism and your purchases and your denial. And for the first time, you let the silence speak. If the only customer is me, then who exactly am I building this for? The garage offers no answer, just the steady, accusing aroma of too much lemon. Your departure isn't dramatic. No fireworks, no angry speeches. One day you simply stop attending meetings, stop calling leads, stop believing the next rank is right around the corner. You box up your tapes, sell a few leftover products at a yard sale, and reclaim your living room from the ghost of entrepreneurial chaos. It happens softly, almost imperceptibly at first. A skipped meeting here, a maybe next week there. You tell your upline you're focusing on mindset, which is code for I'd rather eat drywall than practice another pitch. You stop listening to motivational tapes during your commute and switch back to regular radio, where people talk about weather and traffic, and things that feel pleasantly, wonderfully normal. Your phone stops buzzing with reminders to reach out to prospects. Your planner remains blank. The whiteboard in your living room gathers dust, the last faint circles fading like ancient cave drawings left behind by someone who believed very deeply in geometric destiny. You consider erasing them, but decide to leave them there as a historical artifact from the era of unbridled optimism. Your spouse notices the change immediately. They walk into the living room, see you reading an ordinary novel instead of the success manual, and pause mid-stride like they've encountered a rare bird in the wild. "You okay?" they ask gently. You nod. "I think so." They smile in a way that feels like warm sunlight after a long winter. You spend a weekend sorting through everything. The brochures, the leftover inventory, the business books printed in fonts so excited they practically shake off the page. You make piles, keep, recycle, Why did I ever own this? The why did I ever own this pile grows alarmingly large. Your dog watches from the corner, as if relieved the boxes will no longer threaten to collapse during dinner time. Your garage feels different too. You open the door and stare at the shelves lined with products you once believed held the keys to financial freedom. So you host a yard sale. Neighbours wander in and out, but you don't feel like you're doing anything. You're just there, waiting for the next thing to happen. So you host a yard sale. Neighbours wander over, eyeing your towers of soaps, supplements, sprays, and life-changing household items. You sell everything at prices so low they would make your former upline faint. People buy things not because of your pitch. Thankfully, you're retired from pitching, but because everyone likes a good bargain. One woman buys 8 bottles of shampoo purely because the bottles are pretty. You respect that. By noon, most of your remaining inventory has evaporated into the arms of delighted bargain hunters. Your garage echoes with empty space, a sound you haven't heard in months. You stand back, hands on hips, breathing in the freedom. Your car could fit in there again. Your sanity could fit in there again. It feels like a small miracle. Inside the house, you pack up your motivational tapes, stacking them neatly into a cardboard box. Their titles stare back at you. Unlock Your Potential, believed to achieve Mindset Mastery for Champions. You run your fingers across the plastic cases. Once upon a time, these tapes felt like lifelines. Now they feel like souvenirs from a trip you're grateful to have taken, but even more grateful to have returned from. You tape the box shut. Later, as the sun sets, you sit in your newly reclaimed living room. The couch faces the TV again, not the whiteboard. The coffee table is no longer a display altar. The brochures are gone. The air smells like home instead of hustle. You feel something settle inside you. A quiet peace, a soft exhale, a return to yourself. You didn't fail. You didn't quit in shame. You simply woke up one day, looked around, and realized you didn't need to climb a triangular structure to build a life worth living. You stretch out on the couch, sip a cup of tea, and let the calm wash over you. No ranks, no rallies, no circles, just stillness. And for the first time in a long time, it feels like enough. You decide, boldly, unwisely, to pitch your supervisor during a staff meeting. You wait for the perfect moment, which turns out to be immediately after he announces budget cuts. You slide a brochure across the table like you're in a Cold War spy movie. He stares at it. You stare at him. Everyone else stares at the floor. Congratulations, you've just invented workplace discomfort. It starts innocently enough. You walk into the conference room with a briefcase full of hope, determination, and several products you absolutely should not be bringing to corporate meetings. The fluorescent lights flicker overhead, the kind of lighting that removes all will to live but keeps just enough to meet quarterly goals. Begins the meeting with grim news. Budget begins the meeting with grim news. Budget cuts, resource reductions, hiring freezes. The air thickens with dread and stale coffee. You look around at your co-workers, heads down, pens tapping nervously, soul energy evaporating into the carpet. And for some reason, instead of sympathizing like a normal human, you think, this is the perfect moment to offer them a business opportunity. Your internal motivational tape kicks in. Seize the moment, the booming voice says. Success favors the bold. Unfortunately, success also tends to favor good timing, which you do not possess. You wait for your supervisor to pause, just one tiny pause, but instead he launches into a speech about tightening belts and maximizing productivity. This, apparently, is the moment your brain chooses to shout, "Do it now." So you do. You reach into your pocket with the slow, deliberate movement of a spy passing confidential documents to an informant. The room is silent enough to hear a stapler breathing. You slide the brochure across the polished table, its glossy cover catching the cold conference room light. Your supervisor notices the movement. His eyes track the brochure. His face remains unreadable. You instantly regret all your life decisions, including but not limited to waking up that morning. What's this?" he asks. Your mouth opens, words come out. Not good words, not coherent words, just a panicked verbal casserole. It's an opportunity," you squeak, sweating like you're defusing a bomb, a chance for supplemental wealth generation. You're channeling all the worst lines from the tapes. It's a disaster. Your co-workers lower their eyes to the table, suddenly fascinated by the wood grain, the condensation ring from someone's water bottle, their own existential crises, anything other than the train wreck unfolding beside them. Your supervisor picks up the brochure like it might contain anthrax. He flips it open. His eyebrows rise. The room grows even quieter, as if sound itself has fled out of embarrassment. "You're selling soap?" he finally says, in a tone usually reserved for identifying roadkill. You nod, swallowing hard. "High-quality soap," you whisper, because apparently that matters. A long, painful silence follows. Your heart thuds loudly, echoing through your rib cage like a doom drum. He closes the brochure slowly, thoughtfully, like a man preparing to deliver a eulogy. "I'm going to pretend," he says softly, "that this never happened." You nod vigorously. Too vigorously, your neck cracks. He places the brochure face down. You place your dignity in the same position. The meeting continues. But the energy has changed. Everyone avoids eye contact with you, as though your condition might be contagious. You pretend to take notes, even though your brain is now a chalkboard freshly erased by terror. When the meeting ends, you move with the speed of someone fleeing a haunted house. Your supervisor walks past you, gives you a look of pity and says, "Just focus on your actual job." You mumble something that might be "yes," "sorry," or "please let the earth swallow me." On the drive home, you replay the moment over and over, groaning into your steering wheel. Even the motivational tape refuses to cheer you up. It clicks, sputters, and dies, as though ashamed to be associated with you. By the time you pull into your driveway, you've accepted the truth. There are many kinds of workplace mistakes, typos, missed deadlines, accidentally hitting reply all. But pitching Amway during budget cuts, that's a masterpiece, a historic error, a pinnacle of poor judgment. And congratulations, you now hold the rank of diamond-level awkward. At some point you begin speaking Amwayese without realizing it. Words like downline, volume points, and duplication fall out of your mouth with alarming ease. Friends raise their eyebrows, your family becomes concerned. You start referring to everyday conversations as presentations, which is the moment you officially leave the English language behind. It doesn't happen all at once. It's not like you wake up one morning and declare, "From this day forth I no longer speak common tongue." No, Amwayese creeps into your life like a slow linguistic fungus. One minute you're a normal, functioning adult with a healthy grasp of English, and the next you're casually telling your spouse you need to strategize your prospect funnel before momentum dips. You start using phrases that don't belong in regular human conversation. A friend invites you to dinner and you reply, "Great, love to build rapport." They blink, unsure if you're joking or if you've joined a very enthusiastic robot cult. At the grocery store, a cashier asks how your day is going, and you accidentally say, "Fantastic. I'm aligning with my goals." The cashier stares at you like you just announced you're running for president of the produce aisle. Soon, everything becomes a metaphor for business. A long chat with your mum becomes a high-value conversation. A 10-minute break at work becomes refueling productivity. A messy family disagreement becomes misaligned expectations within the leadership structure. Your old vocabulary starts shedding like a snakeskin. You no longer help people, you support their personal growth journey. You don't congratulate someone, you recognize their upward trajectory. Even simple interactions shift into business jargon. Your dog fetches a ball and you murmur proudly, "That's reproducible behavior." Your dog stares back, concerned. The real breaking point comes during a family gathering. You're sitting at the dinner table enjoying what should be a normal meal when your aunt asks how you've been. You clear your throat and say, "Oh, amazing! I've experienced massive duplication in the last quarter." The entire table freezes, forks mid-air, mashed potatoes suspended in time. Your grandma whispers to your cousin, "Is he speaking in tongues?" You continue, oblivious to the horror, rambling about volume, structure, and a long-term vision alignment. Your spouse kicks you gently under the table, hard enough to send a reminder, soft enough to hide the panic. Outside of home, the problem intensifies. You start labeling social interactions as presentations. You tell your co-worker, "I gave a great presentation to my neighbour this morning," meaning that you explained fabric softener to him for 7 uninterrupted minutes. Your co-worker nods slowly, trying to decide if they should alert HR. Even your voicemail changes tone. Instead of a normal greeting, you record, "Thanks for calling. I'm currently empowering others but will return your call shortly." You say it sincerely, unaware that anyone who hears it will assume you've joined a zealous self-help monastery. Meanwhile, your friends begin to adapt, not by learning your vocabulary, but by avoiding triggering words. They stop using terms like growth, opportunity, or future, because each one causes you to straighten up like a meerkat ready to deliver a pitch. They learn to communicate in short, neutral sentences. They treat you like someone holding an emotional live wire. Despite all this, you feel great. You feel empowered, energized, and linguistically untethered. Words like synergy glide off your tongue with the confidence of someone who absolutely knows what synergy means. But late one night, while brushing your teeth with a product from the mountain in your garage, you catch your reflection in the mirror. You whisper, "Today was a high-activity day with strong duplication potential," and for the first time you hear yourself. And good grief! You sound like a corporate pamphlet wearing human skin. You rinse, you breathe, you place both hands on the sink and quietly promise your reflection that you'll try to use at least one normal sentence tomorrow. Something simple, something human. Maybe, "Nice weather today." But then you step into the hallway and see your spouse, and the first words out of your mouth are, "Think we can optimize our evening routine for better time leverage." They stare at you. You stare at them. Somewhere deep inside, buried beneath layers of jargon, your former self weeps softly. You really might need a dictionary to find your way back. One day you open a bottle of Amway dish soap expecting divine revelation. Instead, you find that it just washes dishes. Not better, not worse, just dishes. You smile anyway, nodding as if the suds themselves whisper financial freedom. After all, admitting it's ordinary might unravel the entire motivational tapestry, holding your new personality together. You stand at the sink like a worshipper approaching an altar. For months, you've heard the gospel of this dish soap, the way it revolutionizes domestic efficiency, the way it supports holistic abundance, the way it cleans at the molecular level. You were told it was a miracle in liquid form, a citrus-scented portal to prosperity. You twist the cap reverently, a soft click, no angels sing, no light bursts forth, just soap. You squeeze some into the sponge, half expecting it to glow. It does not. The scent wafts upward, lemonish, chemical-ish, perfectly acceptable-ish. You inhale deeply, searching for notes of destiny. You locate notes of lemon. But you proceed, because destiny requires commitment. You scrub the first plate with exaggerated care, watching for signs of transformation, sparkles perhaps, a new shine, a whisper from the universe saying, "Yes, sell more of me." Instead, the plate becomes exactly one plate's worth of cleaner. Not a revelation, not a revolution, just a plate. You nod, pretending you are impressed. Wow, you murmur to no one, it's powerful. Your voice cracks with a sincerity you absolutely do not feel. But if you stop believing in the magic of the soap, what else begins to crumble? The tapes, the circles, the entire triangular structure of your hopes and dreams. You rinse another dish, it cleans, you scrub a third, also cleans, a fourth, cleans. You realize dish soap has a surprisingly consistent track record across brands and centuries. You flash back to the medieval peasants you've learned about, how they cleaned wooden bowls with sand and cold water, and you think, weirdly, they might have handled this revelation better than I am. Still, you keep up the show. Your spouse walks by, raising an eyebrow as you beam proudly at your very normal sponge. "Everything okay?" they ask, watching you scrub a cup like it's a sacred artifact. "It's incredible," you say, a little too loudly. "Look at that sheen." They lean closer. It looks like a washed cup. You laugh nervously, like someone being interviewed about a crime they definitely committed. "Yes, but it's the way it washes it," you insist, holding the cup up to the light. There's energy. You can feel it. This is the soap of achievers. Your spouse backs away slowly. You return to washing dishes, letting your thoughts swirl with the suds. You remember the rallies where leaders screamed about this soap as if it cured heartbreak. You recall your upline demonstrating its potency by dissolving a spoonful of motor oil in 2 tablespoons of water, a demonstration you now realize was possibly staged or at least enhanced by enthusiastic lighting. You look at the bottle in your hand. It stares back with a simple label and modest instructions. No promises of enlightenment, no inscriptions of ancient secrets, just use, rinse, repeat. The truth floats gently into your mind like a soap bubble drifting toward a ceiling fan. It's soap. Good soap, maybe, but soap. You pause, sponge dripping, letting this revelation settle. Is it possible? No, impossible that the product you've been defending with religious fervour is merely adequate. You almost laugh, then almost cry. Instead, you do the most human thing imaginable. You rationalise. It performs equally to leading brands. You reassure yourself. That's something. It's concentrated, you whisper, though you have no idea what that actually means. It supports the business, you conclude, even though the only business it supports is your garage's transformation into a cleaning supply museum. You finish the dishes. They look clean. You feel conflicted. But in the world you've been living in, where belief fuels everything from hope to detergent sales, admitting mediocrity feels like pulling a vital thread from a very large, very fragile sweater. So you dry your hands, smile at the soap and think, it's ordinary. And somehow that might be the most extraordinary truth of all. Still, you place the bottle reverently back on the counter, because even if it's just dish soap, it's your dish soap. And your delusion is not ready to wash away just yet. As we settle back into the quiet of your room, far away from the shag carpet, flip charts, and suspiciously enthusiastic 1970s neighbours, take a slow breath. Because tonight you survived something remarkable. You navigated the relentless optimism, the circular diagrams, the towers of detergent threatening to swallow your garage whole. You endured the late-night rallies, the cassette tapes whispering success mantras into your half-asleep brain, and the uneasy realization that passive income mostly meant you buying your own product in bulk. And somehow through all of it you kept going. It's funny, isn't it? How something as simple as a living room could become a battlefield of hope and hustle. A place where ordinary people, mums, dads, co-workers, cousins you only see at Thanksgiving, gathered because they truly believed a better life was just one more recruitment away. People weren't foolish. They were hopeful. And hope, even when it's shaped like a pyramid, is still a deeply human thing. Tonight's journey might have felt quirky and strange, but underneath the jokes and the chaos lives a real tenderness. Because the people caught up in these systems weren't greedy. They were dreamers who wanted more than what the world was offering them. They were trying to escape the bills, the monotony, the feeling of always being one paycheck behind. They wanted to be proud, they wanted control, they wanted to believe something brighter was possible. And if you've ever chased a dream that didn't quite pan out, you know exactly how they felt. So as you drift towards sleep, wrapped in modern comforts those 1970s optimists could only imagine, maybe offer a small, quiet thank you to the resilience of people who try. The ones who hustle, who hope, who rearrange their furniture for a big presentation because they believe, deep down, that life can still surprise them. Thank the ones who filled garages with products they never sold, but still got up the next morning believing success was right around the corner. Because history, even the awkward parts, is proof that people are stubborn, soft-hearted, and endlessly creative in their pursuit of something better. And tonight, as you lie in your clean bed with soft sheets and no motivational cassette tapes playing in the background, let your mind drift gently. Let the noise of the day fade out. Let your thoughts settle like dust on an old flip chart nobody uses anymore. You're safe, you're warm, you're home, and in the stillness let yourself rest, knowing that even the wildest chapters of history remind us how much we've grown and how deeply human it is to hope for more. Good night.